right. We're living on the edge of technology, crypto, blockchain, diversity, equity, inclusion. So good. I'm Rodney Sampson. I have the privilege of serving as the chairman and CEO of Opportunity Hub, which is an inclusive equity and diversity-focused platform to ensure racial equity and that more people of color are in tech startups and venture. We've been operating for over 6 years. Really excited. We just hit our $1 million quarter. I know a lot of people talk about capital access, but we hit $1 million in revenue this quarter, so yay. Excited about that. My wife and I have been building this business for over 6 years, and we've been intentional about really having the conversation, but also creating strategy and solutions for tech companies, conferences to authentically increase the representation of people of color, women, and minorities at their events, but also in their respective companies. So quick story before I have the esteemed guests to introduce themselves. So Alon and Joseph actually met through our publicist. We both had the same publicist over 7 years ago. It was Joyce Schofler, and we were asked to sit on a panel when South by Southwest did an experimental conference in Las Vegas. Can you imagine that? South by Southwest in Las Vegas. And so Alon, Joseph, and I were on the same panel. We hit it off. It was one of the top sessions of that conference. And that year is the same year that I released my 4th book, Kingonomics, 12 Innovative Currencies for Transforming Your Business and Life, inspired by the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I asked Alon to come and to speak at a conference in Washington, D.C. during the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. What Alon didn't know was that I was putting him on a panel with Mark Cuban. And so when he arrived, he was like, dude, did you just put me on a panel with Mark Cuban? And these were early days, because on that panel was also David Wild, former vice chairman of NASDAQ. And so we became quick friends back then. And when they asked me to come and participate last year in Crypto Invest Summit, I said, absolutely, count me in. Of course, when I came, I was very candid and open about the lack of diversity and inclusion from just everyone that should be or could be represented here. And I said, well, let's work on that together. And so lo and behold, this is, I believe, one of the first main stage panels in the industry to talk about scaling access to blockchain and crypto for all. And so over the next 40 minutes, we're going to have a very candid conversation about some of the challenges that we all know, or you may not know, but we're also going to talk about some of the definitive solutions as well. So as you leave and you go back to your respective companies, your startups, your VCs, your mining operations, or however you fit into this ecosystem, you just might have a wallet sitting on billions of dollars. We need to know who you are, right? So wherever you go and however you disperse, we hope that we'll impress upon you to develop strategies and solutions to scale blockchain and crypto for all. So I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves and then quickly tell us their path to crypto and blockchain. Mayra, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mayra Ceja. I'm currently a partner at Republic. I guess I'll go back in terms of where my perspective and a lot of sort of my experience comes from. It's mainly been through investing. Out of college, I worked directly for a hedge fund out in New York, Guggenheim Partners. That's originally when I really got involved in understanding the investor dynamics. From there, I moved more to venture capital. As I was living in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, this blockchain word kept on coming up, and I was trying to figure out, how do I get involved? How do I understand it better? What better way to really get involved than to actually invest in it? So I was able to create some syndicates around some top projects like Blockstack and Basis. And since then, my world has changed, right? It just really gave me an interesting opportunity and a different lens in which to participate in this whole blockchain revolution.
Thank you for that. I think your intro was humble because there was just this Ivy League school you used to run the venture fund for.
So what I didn't mention was the fund that I did run. I actually ended up launching Princeton University's first seed fund directly for their endowment. I took that from 0 to 21 investments in about 18 months. It was a really phenomenal experience. What was interesting about that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, right? What was interesting about having a portfolio of 21 companies, just by me being on the investment committee and on the board, right, we actually had nearly 50% of female founders. Not intentionally, that wasn't the mandate, but I do think that having a seat at the table does change things in terms of investing. And so that's actually been part of my active role, or where I see myself contributing the most is through investing and having a seat at the table and speaking up when the time comes.
Absolutely. Good. Well, welcome to CIS and welcome to this conversation. Chris, tell us a little bit about your path to crypto and blockchain.
Yeah, so Chris Cole, founder of Havoc Systems. My background is based in money management. The last 12 years I've been managing money for athletes, celebrities, influencers, high net worth individuals. Most of that has been in the bond futures market. So about almost 6 years ago, one of my clients turned me on to blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. I started to research blockchain and cryptocurrency. I was hooked from day one. 6 months later, down the road, I was gifted with a mining machine. I literally thought, when it showed up at my doorstep, I thought my client had shipped a bomb to my house. I didn't know what it was. But long story short, over the next 12 months, after getting involved in having my first mining machine, I built 3 multi-million-dollar mining facilities ranging from $5 million to $20 million. Being an investor, being a trader, figuring out how to hedge these $1 million of hardware and equipment was a challenge to me because there was no insurance, there was no protection. Nobody knew how to cover mining equipment or mining operations. So December of 2016, when the CME rolled out Bitcoin futures, I started shorting Bitcoin future contracts based on the amount of cryptocurrency we were mining on a daily basis. Needless to say, when everybody was losing money in 2018, I looked like a genius because we were making a ton of money by shorting Bitcoin futures contracts and not having to liquidate any of the cryptocurrency or the Bitcoin. So I did a merger in March of last year, took a company public in June, and I've been semi-retired and on vacation since then.
Nice.
So that's kind of humble because where did you take the company public, though?
I took the company public on the Tropex Exchange in the Seychelles. So I spent the entire month of June in Africa between Johannesburg, Cape Town. Spent 2 weeks in the Seychelles Islands doing that. So it's been quite a journey.
And think about it, I had to almost as your mentor, twist your arm years ago to take that leap into money management.
For sure. I graduated from college, moved to Atlanta in 2008. Rodney and I met. He immediately became my mentor. And, like any good mentor, they're not going to give you, it's very cut and dry, and at the time I didn't necessarily knew what it mean or, to put in the work or make the sacrifices or whatever the case might be. And I always call Rodney, text him, or whatever the case might be. And it's always been a place of support and encouragement just to constantly push me and propel me to the next level. So, nothing short of a blessing for sure.
Good. Welcome to CIS. Good.
Yeah.
Don, let's hear from you. What was your path to crypto and blockchain?
Yeah, definitely. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dawn Dickson. I'm the founder and CEO of Popcom, and we're an automated retail technology company. I started out working with blockchain as an investor. Got into the hype of crypto in 2016 and 17. Started, investing, but I didn't know what I was investing in. I was just into the hype. Then I started doing research on these projects that I was investing in and deep diving and understanding blockchain technology better and how it's essentially the future. And learned about how I could apply blockchain with my business, working with vending machines and digital kiosks and dealing with customer data, face recognition, artificial intelligence. So now we have integrated blockchain, and so now we work heavily with regulated retail products using the blockchain technology into the kiosks. And I recently just raised a secure token offering on Start Engine And we raised over $1 million. We raised a legal maximum for Reg CF, and we just closing that this week, but it's really exciting.
And you did that in what period of time?
3 months. So a little over 3 months, we did a public sale. Wanted to do an ICO in the beginning, but after the laws changed last year, we decided to do a STO, so a secure token offering, and do it under the Jobs Act, Title III, Reg CF, and the maximum is $1,070,000, and we hit that in 3 months.
So I think, I want to lay some context here. And, coming from men and women of color that are sitting up here, we've literally in our careers, and I know each and every one of you, and we've been on the edge. We've been the outliers in tech, in startups, and in venture. And there's not a day that goes by where we don't have to challenge ourselves to navigate rooms and networks that might not be a part of how we grew up or the access that we normally would have. And so we're forced to be what's called color brave versus being color blind. And so when I say something like Dawn Dickson is the first Black woman in the world to successfully raise a Reg CF STO in 3 months, like, I think everybody should get up on their feet and, it says something, right? Or the fact that Chris, coming from Augusta, man, and coming through what you came through and how you pushed through, right? I mean, I see some of your IG posts on some of your boys that didn't make it. Like they're not here today for various reasons. They were, caught up in the circumstances or just the limited opportunities that were provided to them, and you were able to get out, get to college, and keep pushing through, and to have, built the mining operation, take a company public as well. And the fact, Mayra, that you were able, we talk about VC, and we talk about it being a good old boys club, and we talk about all the issues around that, but then to have, been the first to lead, a woman to lead, a VC fund at an Ivy League institution, like you're breaking multiple barriers. And I think about my own journey. I think about 20 years ago, there were 3 Black men in America who had raised over $1 million in seed capital. It was Omar Wasso at Black Planet. It was Clarence Wooten out of Baltimore. And it was myself in Atlanta. And we all 3 had exits. So if you're betting, who would you bet on? And we all looked up to a gentleman by the name of Emmett McHenry. Quick story, and then we're going to jump into today's conversation specifically around blockchain and crypto. Who's heard of Network Solutions? Right. One of the first company to actually manage the licensing and sale of domain names in the world. And so Emmett McHenry was an African-American entrepreneur in Washington, D.C., and Emmett was a successful entrepreneur doing government contracting, doing business inside of the DMV area. He bid on a contract that no one else bidded on, and it was to manage a government contract to manage domain names. But Emmett had to raise $3 million to buy the servers, the hardware, and everything to go to market. He met with every influential person he knew that was Black, white, male, female, indifferent. You could have been red, green, or purple. They all told him no because they didn't know what domain names were because most people didn't have websites, right? So people didn't have the vision to see into the future, of the internet at that time. Now, mind you, he wasn't, some whipsy kid running around just with an idea like he's got the next hot thing showing up in meetings on Sand Hill Road in hoodies. He's an established member of his community, philanthropist, businessman operating a service-based business, but just couldn't raise the $3 million. He sold over 90% of the company away. And then 5 years later, if you look up the Network Solutions story, Network Solutions was acquired for tens of billions of dollars. And so when we look at that from a cultural competent perspective, what if historically Black colleges and universities or Hispanic serving institutions that exist or groups of people through crypto and blockchain, if everyday Americans could have invested the $3 million in his respective business, look at the multi-generational wealth that could have been created with no reliance on pre-existing multi-generational wealth. And so when you come 25 years full circle, much hasn't changed. I know we have Shark Tank. I used to be on the production team for Shark Tank. I know we have Silicon Valley, the TV show. I know we have pitch competitions galore and thousands of co-working spaces around the country. And every company seems to be getting in on the startup scene. But for people of color or people who come from rural communities or poorer communities that are not on the coast per se, there's still such a nascency and opportunity. And it is our hope that blockchain and crypto and equity crowdfunding could truly be the democratization of opportunity. Now, before we talk about some solutions, I like everyone, just so we could bring some empathy into the room, to talk about your candid experiences about maybe the lack of diversity and inclusion and equity that you've had to experience in building your companies. Don, let's start with you.
Let's see, where do I start? So when you say lack of diversity and inclusion, I want to start by saying, so I've raised now like a total of $2.1 million for my company, which...
Said empathy. Was that a sign?
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
But, the first million of that was from VCs and accredited angels, so went the traditional route to get that first capital. And it wasn't easy, but, it wasn't extremely difficult either. I went through Techstars, which, definitely gave me a great introduction to the market. But for me, what drove me the most was that when I look at how many founders, when you spoke of the story you just told, and how founders give up so much of their company early. So for me, it wasn't so much about the diversity piece as it was about giving up so much of my company in an early stage, not having investors that look like me anywhere around or that understand my industry, and also, the fact that we keep making the same people rich over and over again with every major IPO or exit. And there's really a very limited access to early stage deals or private equity for people that look like me, people in my community, my family, my friends. So a lot of people believed in what I was doing, but because they weren't accredited investors, they couldn't invest. So that was what was the motivating force behind me deciding, I'm not going to raise any more money from VC right now. I'm going to take my next round to, initially it was ICO. I liked the fact that through ICOs, founders have more control, they maintain their equity as well, and they were able to see their vision through and didn't have to be forced to add so many people to their board to guide them. So, of course, when the laws changed and it was the wild, wild west of ICOs and the SEC cracked down, I didn't want to put my company at risk or the existing investors in an uncomfortable position by going out and doing an ICO when there was so much unknown. So that's why I went for the STO. But, when I think of diversity, I really think of the economic gaps. I really think of diversity as it relates to capital access. I feel that founders are in, this is kind of like the civil rights movement of access to capital. So it's not about really color for me as much as it is accredited versus non-accredited, because the wealthy keep getting wealthier, and those who don't have access to get in on private equity deals, they never can get to that level of wealth that they can. And so that's my motivation above all.
I mean, that's powerful. And what Don is, let's give it up.
Thank you.
What Don is referring to, and I won't give the data here, but you should just Google the racial wealth gap in America. Just go look at it and look at the median wealth of our white American brothers and sisters, Asian American brothers and sisters, Latinx American brothers and sisters, and Black brothers and sisters, and look at it today and look at it by 2053. By 2053, it's projected to be zero for African American families, median wealth zero, and for Latinx families by 2073, zero. And so we've got a lot of work to do, and so by applying these new laws, these new opportunities, everyone talks about the titles in the Jobs Act, Title II, Title III, Title IV, the transactional titles. No one talks about Title VII in the Jobs Act, which was mandated for outreach to undertapped, underrepresented, socially disadvantaged communities, rural communities that might not normally know about this. And the challenge I had with Title VII was it was an unfunded title. And so it left the outreach solely on the people who wanted to benefit without the government funding, the outreach. And so a lot of good there, but some tweaks that could have been done in the legislation. Chris, talk about some of your pain points, like, getting into the tech world, the finance world, the investment world as well.
So for me, when you talk about pain points, I feel very strongly about our passion being deeply rooted in our pain and our experience,
Absolutely.
right? So for me, it wasn't so much of a journey to look for inclusion or access, because I didn't really know anybody, or I didn't know anybody who was doing anything in the blockchain, cryptocurrency industry at the time. So I said, well, how can I create something myself, and come up with a proven model or concept, or take it beyond the concept stage and showing something that actually worked. So long story short, I built after I got my first mining machine, started doing the research, it became something that I believed in. So I literally built the $20,000 mining operation in my basement. And I let some of my friends and family invest as little as like $200-300 toward mining machines to put together a proof of concept, and I ran this operation for like 6 months, and I had all the data and the results, and I had my wallets and different things of that nature to show what I had done over the last 6 months. And it took me about 30 days to go to some of my clients who I've been managing money for years to raise another $500,000 to get a space, do a mining operation, and everything was kind of birthed out of that. And like I say, I end up building 3 multi-million-dollar mining operations, ranging from $5 million to the larger operation being a $20 million operation. And when I took the company public, I literally made millions of dollars overnight. And those folks that invested $200-300, they saw a $200-300 investment turn into $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 based on them getting started. So putting together a key utility or finding a way out of no way was really my mindset. So I didn't really pursue access or inclusion per se, but more so figuring out how I could pave my own way and come up with something like that.
And I like the natural progression that as humans, we all have pain. And I think a lot of the people on the planet who become successful as entrepreneurs, we end up productizing our pain.
Right.
That's literally what we're doing. And you sounded like the old Baptist hymnal when you said, make a way out of no way.
Yeah, for sure.
And literally that, you talk about the great equalizer and the opportunity to, create multi-generational wealth or true freedom to be able, to live your best life or what have you. And I want to also say, we haven't gotten to the solutions part as well, but helping us set up, the first mining operation at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, that's now helping expose young men and women to opportunities in crypto and blockchain is definitely, it's active philanthropy, right? Just the exposure and teaching young people that there are other opportunities beyond just a traditional career path. Quickly, Mayra, talk a little bit about some of the pain points you've experienced in venture and maybe in moving through blockchain and crypto as well.
Yeah. So I think you both have touched upon some very interesting facts. It's definitely the access, right, to capital and also the access to investments. I think those are two different sides of the coin that are super important. So what I saw in venture capital, right, is the same, high-tech deals getting funded, where a lot of these really great consumer products, like the investment committee just did not understand how big these markets were, right? And so that was one problem. The other problem was in terms of investor diversity, right? When you don't give access or investment access to different people that actually have a stake, care about you, can be more than just investors and really true stakeholders in the future of your success, you're actually missing out. What has been really exciting over the past year, and partially why I got into blockchain, was really that it was the first year ever. The Jobs Act has been around. The Jobs Act is where you can crowdfund, right? That's been around for over 3 years. It was not picking up the same steam that I think a lot of people really worked hard towards, and that was really supposed to democratize access to capital for both founders and investors. That wasn't really taking off until you saw this ICO Bitcoin craze, and really that was the fundamental idea of how do you activate, how do you reward your communities, very large communities that come around this single idea to make things, happen in real life. That's what I think was so exciting. And you're actually talking about, if you look at the numbers, it was $7 billion that were raised last year. When you look at how much money VCs put in, it's still much larger. It's around $100 billion. But once you start to take a percentage of that, that's 7%, VCs started to take notice, right? And what we have actually seen from last year to this year that's very interesting is you saw a shift, definitely due to regulations in terms of, ICOs not totally being there, but the opportunity to do these STOs in a legal way as a combination of your total raise, right? You are limited by this $1 million, which, is a different discussion for another day. But I think what now you're seeing a lot of projects, a lot of startups really allocating that $1 million specifically to actively stimulate, reward their community that offers a very different sort of investment profile than the full amount that you need, whether that's full 15 million or 30 million. So now we're seeing a combination of both, but very strategically and very intentional way to do it, to reward your early adopters, to reward the first people that believed in you. And, with the idea that, how else do you get to that 200x? Not by working harder, right? And so those are some of the shifts that I think I've seen in the market that are really exciting, and where, because this market is brand new and still growing at a really hyper rate, that's the exciting part, and where it represents true opportunity for, a lot of our communities.
No, that's powerful. And, I go back to like the early years when Jason and Woody and Doug Elinoff and David Wild and a lot of alum, we were like having these conference calls, like just literally trying to get the Jobs Act passed, right? We weren't lobbyists. We was just like, at the end of the day, we were like go-to-market founders and entrepreneurs having conversations and having people write letters. And the fact that, of course, Title II moved forward and Title III was stalled for 4 years. And so we saw a lot of early platforms just run out of cash. They weren't able to stay afloat because they couldn't do deals and they couldn't shift. And then, it was interesting. I like to tell this story because Sean Wilkinson, who's the founder of Storage in Atlanta. So we were investors, through his traditional cap table. And then Sean sends us a letter and is like, look, I'm not raising capital fast enough. I want to do this thing called an ICO. And we're like, okay, what is he talking about? And 3 weeks later, once he launches it, he raises $30+ million in 3 weeks. And we're like, well, wait a minute. And then Sean sends us this letter and is like, I'm pleased to inform all of the investors that we have a 100-year runway. It was like, wait, Sean, that 100 years is not. But what he was basically saying, and also because he navigated with some expertise between Bitcoin and Ether at the right time. Imagine a founder being able to create multi-generational wealth and then remove the stress of having to make payroll and remove the stress of having to provide for their families. Because when you come from lower income communities, regardless of race and culture, the moment you get a college degree and a good job, you become the philanthropist, the loaner, the bank, and everybody to your family and community. And don't be a startup founder that makes an announcement that you raised $1 million. Everybody's like, oh, you're balling now. And they don't understand, like, that money has to be spent on actually company building. So we saw these founders in Atlanta. We saw Krista McFarland. We literally watched her in our tech hub in 3 days raise $7.2 million for Patient Tory and P-Toy. And I was like, do I need to be a part of this? And she was like, yeah. She set my wallet up. And like on day 1, she set my wallet up. Day 3, she had closed on $7.2 million.
That's inspired me.
So this disruption and shift that has the traditional angels and VCs on edge needs to happen. It has to happen in order for access, democratization, or even like emancipation of capital. Our capital that we've worked hard for that can allow us to just participate in our colleagues. We went to college together, or we are part of the same organization, or we go to church or temple, what have you. We want to be able to invest in one another And that hasn't happened. And so I'm encouraged by that, which leads us to the next part of our conversation. Then we'll open up for a little Q&A before we wrap, is to talk about solutions. One of the solutions that, Mayra, we're working on with Republic, Opportunity Hub has over 4,000 college students and young professionals, mostly in engineering majors at 250 colleges around the country now, and represented at HBCUs. And you should know what HBCUs are. These are historically black colleges and universities that have been around for hundreds of years, so that after slavery and emancipation, when black people wanted to learn but couldn't go to college because of racism and discrimination, we had organizations that would set up these colleges for us to go learn and be able to participate in the American dream. And 100 of them still exist today, and they're very, very diverse communities if you want to learn history and if you really want to just know this part of American history. And so we are giving them, many of them, their very first free tokens in Republic so that they can learn what a token is, what blockchain is, what crypto is. So talk a little bit about what Republic and OHub are doing as a solution as we move through the next stage.
As a solution, yes, absolutely. So I guess I'll give a little bit of background in terms of Republic for those of you who aren't familiar with it. What we're really trying to do is to democratize investing for everybody. And what that means right now, we just launched our token this Monday. We've had tremendous press in the Wall Street Journal covering this because I think the model is really innovative. Republic itself is an investing platform where anybody on our platform, we can do crowdfunding, we can also do private sales and help people out with their Reg D, with accredited investors, and do some syndication around that. But aside from that, it's an entire platform. What now we're offering with our token that we're giving away for a limited time period, we're activating our community, right? So our community of people that come on our platform, investors, refer us deals, they can now participate and be a part of it. It's really easy to earn. You don't need a wallet actually for us. You just log in, do your email, and immediately you get access not only to great deals very early on, you'll be the first to kind of know, you'll get VIP access to other networking activities. And what we do hope that in the long run, it will be an opportunity for us to share Republic's revenue with the public and these token holders. And that's what I think is revolutionary. Imagine everything coming on our platform and being able to participate and help us grow that. And in the long run, you're part owner of that.
And that's amazing. We literally have students that are emailing us through our Slack groups or email or text or what have you, saying, I'm claiming this token, but what is a token? And we're like, okay. So just the early exposure in education and just socialization of the concept, because we're like a learned community here, right? Everyone that's here already knows what crypto and blockchain is. But there's millions of people, or literally billions of people that don't. And if we can activate those as a future investor class, would be incredible. Chris and Don, if we were sitting in a strategy meeting with all the founders and the players which are in this room related to blockchain and crypto, to make it more diverse and equitable and inclusive for all. We had a whiteboard, ideation session. What are some of the solutions? What would you propose to people to do to ensure that everyone has access to this industry going forward? Chris, we'll start with you.
For me, my approach to it, most recently, I invested in the CBD marijuana industry over the past couple of years, and most recently I bought a couple of brick and mortar vitamin and nutrition shops, and I just bought a vitamin and supplement manufacturing company. And the reason behind that was because when I looked at that business, the vitamin supplement manufacturing company, that's a $34 billion a year industry. And also my experience working with athletes, celebrities, influencers. I got a good friend of mine, Brother 19 Keys, who I'm working with as well, to really integrate blockchain technology and solutions to this industry. So when we talk about mass adoption, do it in a very subtle way, using influencers, of course, to gain some traction, and more importantly, educate the people on what blockchain technology and solution is. I think one of the problems that the industry has struggled with is its ability to really educate the masses on what exactly is cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. because if you're not into computers or coding or, finances, it's like, we don't know what it is. A lot of people look at it as a scheme, scam, or get rich quick type of scheme. So really taking some of these larger industries where the masses are already involved and integrating very subtly, blockchain technology and solutions to those users and customers' experience.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful approach, Dawn.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. It just really comes down to education, and that was a big part of my overall campaign was, blogging a lot, doing a lot of videos, doing a lot of AMA, Ask Me Anything sessions, and just taking the time to educate people about what is a token as a security, what is a secure token offering, what is the difference between a share and a token, how does that function as it relates to investing in something else, because we all know, like, investing isn't even taught in schools. Like, people get out of high school and don't even know how to, like, manage their money. So I think it's, like, something that needs to be started very early, and when you're talking about money management and different ways to grow wealth, we need to insert the crypto conversation and blockchain conversation in very early along with everything else. But it definitely comes down to the same way we can make a message go viral, we need to make the message go viral of the opportunities. I mean, that's what I was able to do with my Breakfast Club interview. It went viral, and then my campaign, sold out in a matter of a week. And even though many people didn't even understand fully what the token was, they came behind, my message of just inclusion and economic growth and wealth creation. And now I have 2,000 new investors, many people of which have never invested in anything in their life, not a single stock. They don't have any kind of investments, but they invested in a token, in a security, token. So that makes me feel good because now not only do I have investors, but I have a community of 2,000 people that can now each one teach one. They can, if they all tell one or two people, they're, and that's how the trickle effect comes. They can teach their children. So like, beyond me raising money for my business and being able to grow the business, I feel a great responsibility to continue to educate my investors and educate the community, not only on PopCom, but on other opportunities that exist in the space. And because of the option for liquidity, I am a big fan of blockchain and crypto, even over the traditional stock exchanges, because of the ability for people to get in early on deals and capitalize faster. So I think it's just up to all of us to be influencers and ambassadors in our everyday lives to everyone around us to help them to understand the opportunities. And all of us are influencers when it comes. Like, if you know something that other people don't know, we need to share that. We've as a culture, as a country, held a lot of things for the elite or for the certain percent. And even we're included in that. When you think about income, what's the average income? 30,000. All of us are over that. So we still keep these things in our group, in our cliques. We have to expand, and we have to share this information with everyone. And that's where it really starts for me.
That's incredibly powerful, and I love the point that you made about the responsibility of reciprocity. You've got this ecosystem now. It's not isolated. You've got literally 2,000 people that you feel responsible to, but 2,000 can become 20, and 20 can become 200,000.
Right.
And you almost, if you think about it, could become like, the YC or 500 startups of the future, because literally you could vet deals and put them forward. And
that's definitely on my agenda.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because now people ask me every day, what else can I invest in? And I can't just say anything. I actually feel responsible to say, okay, let me do my research.
Sure.
To make sure that, at least I believe in this. They've done the work. There's no guarantees. All investments are risks. We know that. But if the founder and the team have done the work to at least have a good, strong chance to make it, then I definitely think it's worth taking a look at. But something we could talk about later, because
Absolutely.
I get people asking me every day.
Very good, very good. So we've got time for one or maybe two quick questions. I see this gentleman there, and I see a lady over here. Let's start with the lady, and then we'll wrap up with the gentleman over there. Please come to the mic.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Ju, and I'm coming from Korea. And I'd say Korea is maybe the market that is the most mainstream for crypto. And so hats off to all of y'all for trying to make it mainstream in the US and globally. So you guys have created institutions to democratize wealth, which I think is the first step. And Don, you talked about how, you're doing these campaigns to go viral. And I mean, crypto going mainstream, I think, is everyone's dream. But like, what's next? How can we support you all to further this message? I mean, is it just viral videos, like you said, with the Breakfast Club, or what? I mean, I want to support this, so what can we do next?
I can speak for us. Our plan and our agenda is to take this $1 million round was kind of like our version of a private pre-sale that ICOs, in that time. So there's a 12-month holding period before we can put our token on the exchange and start trading it. Our plan is to just get the product out, create a demand for the token, we put it on the exchange. So at this moment, I just ask, follow us on social, follow our company, so that when we do start to prepare to put that token on an exchange, spread the word that it's available. And I'm going to need as much support, even more than I had this time, to really, for that next round of funding that we raise on a much larger scale, to have the support of the overall community to talk about the token. That's how all these other big tokens, I mean, I fell into the hype of Tron, I fell into the hype of, but these are the ones that we saw everywhere. So I want to make our token have that same effect, but have a product out and a project that is definitely viable. So thank you for asking.
I think for us, it's really, straightforward. For us, the Republic Note, what we want is everybody to be a note holder and participate and be able to earn additional notes. So I think, if you come on our platform, participate, see anything that you like, that in itself is like huge reward, spreading the word. That's phenomenal, and it's just at republic.co.
I'd love to, make a specific ask as well. I want to see, 1 million Don Dicksons and 1 million Chris Coles and 1 million Mayras. I mean, I was just thinking about, like, when Dawn was in Atlanta, she was a member of the Opportunity Hub, and we were just building. We didn't know what we were doing, but we were building these co-working spaces and these coding boot camps and, these pre-accelerators and making risky bets. And we really could use the support of the industry to actually scale, So your investment, your influence, help us go global, join our respective organizations, get involved, because a tweet is great, a hashtag is great, but when you actually become a member of this ecosystem, like when you said, I listened to you and you said, career was mainstream. I love the fact that there's a global construct that Americans we always think we're mainstream in everything, right? We think we're this. And now we're seeing other folks that are being more innovative and catching on and adopting things. And if we don't wake up, we won't be as innovative as we were. And I think we don't want to be as innovative just for the point of doing it to stay on top. We need to be innovative so that all are included. And so I think that will be my collective ask. Thank you for your question. Let's take the next question, and I need the timing folks to tell us when we are absolutely out of time.
I just have to thank you all first personally. Thank you, Rodney. I'm sorry, I can't tell if I'm talking too loud. Thank you, Mayra. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dawn. It really warms my heart like I can't say. I'm here with a startup trying to get into the things that you've already been doing successfully, and being new to this, I had no idea there were investors out there with the same priorities. Just knowing you're doing the work that you're doing means more to me than I can even say. But I did have a question. When I heard you talk earlier, Rodney, about the fear that venture capitalists, a lot of firms have now to what you're doing, where do you think that comes from, and what do you think that is, and what, if anything, do you think can be done about it?
Well, I think any person or any company, once they become successful, they want to hold their position, right? And so I think it sort of just transcends. One of the things I've learned about success is that success also breeds complacency. And so the same work ethic you put into becoming successful, if you don't want to work as hard or smart, then you tend to protect that zone or that area. And if you think about it, when you set up a hierarchy, whether it's geolocal or even industry-wide, where there's $130 billion of angel and venture and limited capital, then they get set in their ways on, like, I don't take cold calls, I don't take blind introductions. So if you don't have a network, then you're automatically out, right? And so the disruption just in the industry is being accelerated because the crowd is a little bit more reasonable in negotiating the cap table. Like they want the owners to maintain control. They want the owners, to be successful, whereas the traditional VC mind is ultimately looking at how to take control to ensure or mitigate the risk personally or from their LPs. And so I think we just need you're going to see a convergence at a certain point. I mean, that's why you have like A16 and Draper. You see these large traditional VCs that are launching blockchain. So the writing is on the wall, and I think they're starting to bring people together. But through convenings like this and conversations, we're going to start to see more disruption.
Thank you. I'll be speaking
last
at
question.
12 if you want to hear.
Okay, absolutely. All right.
Hi, first I want to echo everything he said about how much I appreciate everything you guys stand for. Just to save a little time, I'm just going to say what he said was great. I'm actually a publicist. I'm coming from the entertainment industry, and I'm coming from a totally different side of this thing in terms of from product and content, meaning don't everyone scream, I don't really own any Bitcoin. I actually came to Bitcoin from blockchain. So reading about blockchain and understanding that side of the technology, I was in the military for a while, but it's a whole other thing. So what I did was, I've been a publicist for a number of years. I transitioned my PR agency into a blockchain-esque environment, meaning looking at different ways that we can work with our clients. And so what challenge I'm facing now is not only is it foreign within the African-American community, now you double that down on the entertainment industry, which is exactly like you said, if you don't have a network. So I do have a great network, and I've actually been able to do some proof of concept, but I was hoping someone could speak to, maybe Chris, you could speak to, how do you really translate this to like celebrities and influencers who are already apprehensive about new ideas or investment, but helping them understand that while Bitcoin and different things, investment is investment, but the technology itself is solid, and you need to be moving in that direction.
So Chris, why don't you close us out with that?
Yeah,
that
so
great question.
for me, with my clients, I really sit down and really educate them on, for one, money, how it works. And when we talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency, the fact that cryptocurrency is actually backed by blockchain technology. And the reason a currency needs to be backed by something is so you can't duplicate it or manipulate it, right? And as we know, everything that we do, we live in a social media or social proofing world now. So that's my aim, to work with influencers, celebrities, and really spend that time with them to educate them on that piece. And once I can get them involved and get them on board, then the masses are going to come, because it's just the day and age that we live in. So that's my approach. Definitely love to talk to you when I get off stage, too.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for taking the time to fly in and be a part of this. And let's keep building the ecosystem. Thank you.